Sigmas, welcome. Imagine a man waking up before dawn, not for spectacle or applause, but because his soul whispers, it's time. He moves quietly through his world, unseen by most, yet unmistakably present. He invests in his character when no one is watching, chooses stillness when others demand noise, and cultivates depth over surface. In a culture that applauds volume, the high-value man knows true strength often shows in what is not said. This video is not about shortcuts, loud success, or easy wins. It's about 7 difficult traits, habits that resist the mainstream, challenge the complacent and demand sacrifice, but produce uncommon results. Because while many chase comfort, the man who chooses less comfort and more mastery, he ascends quietly. He walks past the crowd, not from contempt, but from clarity. You'll hear of traits that few embrace because they require patience, discipline, and a willingness to be misunderstood. But the payoff? A version of masculinity that is rooted, real, and unshakable. Your value doesn't come from external approval. It comes from who you become in the silence. And the world will respond, not with a shout, but with the kind of respect that doesn't need to be voiced. In the next few minutes, we'll explore 7 habits that may feel heavy at first, yet shape the character of the uncommon man. If you're ready to lead yourself, rather than just the crowd, to build quietly rather than just perform loudly, to hold your standard when no one else does, then sit back, breathe, and let these truths settle. Because growth doesn't always announce itself. Sometimes it grows beneath the surface, then emerges steady and strong. Let's begin. Habit 1, embracing internal authority. You don't wait for others to appoint you. You don't seek validation. A high-value man builds his convictions within. He reads, reflects, and listens to his inner voice until it becomes stronger than the noise of the world. This kind of man doesn't rely on praise to confirm his worth or direction. He knows his why, and that purpose acts as his compass when opinions clash, when others hesitate, and when life offers no applause. He has discovered something most people overlook, that leadership begins the moment you stop needing permission to act. This trait is rooted in psychology and philosophy alike. Studies on self-determination theory show that individuals who act from intrinsic motivation, that is internal conviction rather than external approval, display higher persistence, creativity, and satisfaction. In ancient Stoicism, thinkers like Marcus Aurelius and Epictetus taught that self-governance is the ultimate form of power. A man ruled by his inner principle cannot be ruled by others. It's not arrogance, it's self-mastery. He learns from everyone but bows to no one's pressure to conform. Instead of absorbing every voice, he filters information, reflects, and makes decisions based on principles, not trends. Early on, this independence feels uncomfortable. Decisions seem heavier when there's no one to validate them. The silence of standing alone can feel like failure. But over time, this solitude becomes sacred, a training ground for strength. The man who acts despite uncertainty grows in resilience. Neuroscience even supports this. Repeated exposure to calculated risk strengthens the brain's prefrontal cortex, the area responsible for decision-making and emotional control. In other words, practicing autonomy literally rewires the brain for confidence. And this confidence is not loud or boastful. It's quiet. It's the calmness of someone who no longer doubts his compass. When external applause fades, internal authority remains. When the world shouts for attention, he stays focused on alignment. His validation comes not from likes, status, or applause, but from the simple knowledge that he is living truthfully, according to his values, his logic, and his faith. Over time, this integrity becomes magnetic. People start to trust him because he trusts himself. In a world built on imitation, he becomes original. The lesson is simple, yet profound. Uncertainty is not weakness. Acting despite it is strength. A high-value man doesn't wait to be chosen. He chooses himself. Habit 2, cultivating sacred solitude. True independence demands time alone, not as isolation, but as calibration. In a world obsessed with constant connection, solitude has become one of the rarest and most undervalued luxuries. Yet for the Sigma male, solitude isn't loneliness. It's a tool. It's the silent room where noise fades and clarity emerges. When a man spends time alone, away from the opinions, demands, and distractions of others, he begins to hear the faint whisper of his own priorities. In that stillness, he refines his goals, restores his energy, and strengthens his inner compass. This isn't escapism, it's self-maintenance. Studies in psychology show that solitude enhances creativity and focus, allowing the brain to process information more deeply. It's why history's greatest thinkers, Einstein, Nietzsche, and Thoreau, spent large portions of their lives in seclusion. They understood that silence isn't empty. It's full of answers. The Sigma male recognizes this truth instinctively. He doesn't fear being alone because he knows that solitude is where true power is built. While the world chases validation, he calibrates his mind. Every moment alone is an opportunity to detach from the noise and reconnect with purpose. When others scroll mindlessly, he reflects. When others rush to please, he pauses to realign. That's why his actions often appear deliberate and his confidence grounded. It's the byproduct of hours spent in introspection. 1 hour of undistracted thought each day can be transformative. Neuroscientists suggest that even brief periods of quiet reflection improve emotional regulation and decision-making by activating the brain's default mode network, the system responsible for self-awareness and creative insight. A Sigma's daily ritual might be simple: an hour of deep thought, an evening without social media, or a solitary walk under the evening sky. These small acts are forms of resistance against a distracted world. Each moment spent in solitude becomes a sharpening stone for his mind. He emerges not detached, but refined, more attuned to his mission, and immune to the chaos that drains others. True independence, then, is not about cutting off the world, but about mastering your relationship with it. You can only give your best to others once you've reclaimed your time for yourself. The world will always demand your attention, but clarity belongs only to those who protect it. So the Sigma reserves his silence like gold, because in that quiet forge he becomes unstoppable. Habit 3, holding moral rigor when it's invisible. Character is not built in applause or recognition. It is built in quiet, unseen moments when no one is there to witness your choices. It's forged when you return something you could have kept, when you admit a fault that could have been concealed, or when you choose honesty, even when a convenient lie whispers that no one will know. True integrity doesn't require an audience. It thrives in solitude. The world tends to celebrate the visible victories, the promotions, the trophies, the applause. But character lives in the decisions that happen long before the spotlight ever shines. It's in the way you handle power, when no one can hold you accountable, and how you treat people who can do nothing for you in return. These small, invisible choices silently sculpt your moral identity, shaping who you become long after others have forgotten the moment. Imagine someone offers you a shortcut, an easy compromise that promises quick success or instant gratification. Most would take it, but you don't. You refuse, not to prove a point, not to appear noble, but because something inside you whispers that the cost to your integrity outweighs the reward. Psychologists call this moral identity centrality, the idea that for some, morality isn't just an external rule. It's woven into who they are. Each time you choose the harder right over the easier wrong, you strengthen that internal compass. And over time, people begin to sense something different about you. They can't always name it, but they feel your consistency. They trust your word because it aligns with your actions. In leadership psychology, this is known as influence earned not by position or charisma, but by unwavering integrity. In an age driven by optics, where virtue is often performed for validation, holding your standard when no one watches becomes an act of quiet rebellion. It's what the ancient Stoics called self-rule, the mastery of one's impulses when external validation fades. Character, then, is not something you inherit, it's something you build, brick by brick, in hidden hours. Every honest confession, every restrained reaction, and every unseen act of integrity becomes a stone in that foundation. And when the storms of life arrive, as they inevitably will, what holds you steady isn't your image, but the invisible structure of who you've become. That is the unseen architecture of greatness. Habit 4, practicing deep focus in a distracted world. We live in a world addicted to noise. Notifications flash across our screens. Messages pull our focus, and our minds scatter across endless tabs of unfinished thoughts. Yet amid this chaos, a high-value man stands apart. Not because he has more time, but because he protects it like a sacred currency. He knows that focus is not just a productivity hack. It's a discipline that defines character, success, and peace of mind. In a culture of constant interruption, he resists the temptation to split his attention. Instead, he gives himself fully to one thing, one task, one idea, one conversation. This act, simple yet rare, becomes a quiet rebellion against distraction. Science backs this up. Cognitive studies from Stanford University and the University of London have shown that multitasking can reduce productivity by up to 40%, lowering IQ temporarily and increasing stress levels. The human brain isn't designed to jump rapidly between tasks. It performs best when it sinks deeply into one. That's why true mastery, whether in art, business, or leadership, always emerges from deep, uninterrupted focus. Think of great inventors, writers, and thinkers. Einstein, Tesla, or Hemingway. They all had one thing in common: sacred solitude. They guarded their attention as fiercely as warriors guard their armor. To cultivate this in daily life, a practical technique is to set a 60-minute timer. During that hour, remove every distraction. No phone, no social media, no interruptions. Enter what psychologists call a flow state, where your mind becomes fully absorbed in the task. The first few sessions might feel uncomfortable, as if your brain rebels against stillness. But over time, you'll notice a transformation. Your thoughts will sharpen, your work will deepen, and your results will multiply. You'll feel less scattered, more grounded, and surprisingly peaceful. This is not magic. It's the compound effect of sustained attention. Within weeks, your focus will start to build a reputation of its own. People will notice your calm efficiency, your ability to listen deeply, and your precision in getting things done. Your influence will grow quietly, not from loud effort, but from concentrated energy. In a world where most people live half-present, the man who gives his full presence becomes magnetic. Protect your attention. It's not just a productivity tool. It's the foundation of power, wisdom, and uncommon success. Habit 5. Embracing the long game. There are no overnight legends. True greatness is never built in haste. It is forged over years of consistent effort, quiet discipline, and relentless patience. The Sigma male understands this better than most. While others chase after instant validation, he plays the long game. He knows that genuine mastery requires time, and that rushing the process only weakens the foundation. Like an ancient craftsman shaping stone, the Sigma works in silence, knowing each strike today will define the structure tomorrow. He plants seeds that may not bear fruit in his lifetime, yet he plants them anyway, because legacy matters more than applause. The Sigma's mindset is anchored in long-term vision. He trains his body not for vanity or fleeting admiration, but for vitality, longevity, and the strength to protect what he loves. He saves his money not to flaunt wealth, but to buy freedom, the kind that allows him to walk away from anything that compromises his peace. He hones his skills not to show off, but to serve, to build, and to contribute something meaningful to the world. Psychology calls this delayed gratification, the ability to resist short-term pleasure for a greater future reward. It's the same principle that separates successful investors, athletes, and innovators from those who fade after one lucky break. The Sigma embraces this truth, that daily habits compound like interest, invisible at first, then unstoppable. Years later, the quiet effort no one noticed becomes a legacy everyone respects. His growth is not measured in viral moments, but in endurance, wisdom, and unshakable self-mastery. When others burn out chasing trends, he remains, a living testament to what patience, consistency, and purpose can achieve. In a world obsessed with speed, the Sigma chooses depth. He builds not for today's applause, but for tomorrow's permanence. And one day, when the dust settles, his results will not just be seen, they will be undeniable. Habit 6. Mastering your response to challenge. When life hits hard, when you lose a job, a plan collapses, or a relationship falls apart, the high-value man doesn't shatter. He bends but never breaks. This isn't just stoicism for show. It's emotional intelligence in motion. He recognizes that pain, while unpleasant, is also a profound teacher. Every setback is a data point, every loss a recalibration. Psychologically, this approach aligns with what researchers call post-traumatic growth, the ability to use adversity as a springboard for higher levels of understanding and resilience. Instead of drowning in "why me?", the high-value man shifts to "what now?" He becomes both the student and the sculptor of his life, refining himself through reflection and decisive action. When faced with difficulty, he pauses, not out of hesitation, but strategy. Reflection is his laboratory for insight. He asks, what's the lesson here? What is life trying to build in me through this? Science supports this mindset. Studies in cognitive behavioral therapy show that reframing adversity helps the brain rewire itself, lowering stress and increasing emotional stability. He doesn't broadcast his pain because validation from others isn't his medicine. Growth is. Adversity in his world is not an obstacle but a forge, melting away weakness to reveal strength underneath. Your reaction, not the event, defines your trajectory. Think about it. Two people can face the same storm, yet one emerges wiser while the other crumbles. The difference lies in response, not circumstance. The high-value man knows this truth intimately. He uses every challenge as a gym for the soul, where endurance, patience, and wisdom are trained. So next time life tests you, pause before reacting. Observe, reflect, ask yourself what this moment is trying to teach you. Because once you master your reaction, you no longer fear adversity. You welcome it as the very process that builds the man you are meant to become. Habit 7, living with uncompromising standards and compassion. High standards are not a wall, they're a compass. A Sigma male's strength doesn't come from cold detachment or arrogance, but from balance. He understands that treating himself with kindness doesn't mean tolerating disrespect. And holding firm boundaries doesn't require cruelty. In psychology, this reflects self-integrity, the alignment between one's values and actions, a trait strongly linked to emotional intelligence and inner stability. A Sigma, male's refusal to settle stems from an understanding of self-worth, not pride. Yet he also knows that everyone's journey is different. He doesn't mock those still learning or searching. Instead, he provides space for their growth. Sociological studies show that true leaders cultivate others, not just command them. And this is where his quiet mentorship shines. His authority is rooted in stewardship, guiding without control, influencing without ego. He listens more than he speaks, allowing wisdom to emerge naturally. Declining what lowers his standard isn't rejection of people, it's protection of purpose. And by maintaining that balance, standing firm yet open, he demonstrates that strength and compassion aren't opposites. They are, in fact, the same force expressed through maturity. Sigmas, you've now seen 7 habits, each demanding, each subtle, each potent. They may not be celebrated on stage, but they're felt in boardrooms, in relationships, in the mirror, when you're the only one present. Growth isn't glamorous, it's steady, it's patient, it's often unseen, but every day you choose the harder path. Your character deepens, your purpose clarifies, your influence matures. Be the man who builds beyond applause. Be the man whose value is not in what he says, but who he is. If you found this meaningful, consider subscribing. Continue your growth quietly, but relentlessly. Let your standards speak before you do. Having said this,